So it's quite a different atmosphere than the University of Missouri is used to. We have lines of trucks, we have a lot of students who might not be participating, but they're still curious, so they're looking in. You can hear chants coming right now from the tents. Trump supporters were met by very vocal protesters and a large number of police when they arrived here. I spoke to a police officer who said he got here at 5 a.m. and there were already people in line. This poster is put up in the Missouri Tiger football team's locker room, and it shows what to do if you get a concussion. It shows signs and symptoms, any type of thing that people should be on the lookout for. Governor Nixon has a laundry list of issues that he wants to get covered in the last year of his office, and one of them is potentially shortening the legislative session. But issue number one is ethics reform, and he says he has lots of ways to get it done. Despite having very different ideas on how it wants to be done, both sides agree that there needs to be some type of immigration reform. Reporting live in Jefferson City, Emma Henderson, KOMU 8 News. Trump supporters were met by very vocal protesters and a large number of police when they arrived here. I spoke to a police officer who said he got here at 5 a.m. and there were already people in line. I also spoke to KRAIG Moss, a Trump supporter who's traveled around the country to see the candidate, and he says this is the most tense that the rallies have ever been. While there are blocks and blocks of Trump supporters, there are also protesters who brought signs and bullhorns, asking the crowd various questions and giving their vocal opposition to Donald Trump. Multiple fights broke out between the two sides when they were entering the building. Most of the Trump supporters were cheerful, while the protest took on more of a serious tone.
I'm headed on down this road singing Trump president. What's gonna happen, Lord, my son, I won't forget.
As a historian and a Christian, I could tell you that in Nazi Germany, when they came after people, other people didn't speak up, and when they came after the ones who didn't speak up, it was already too late.
Now, KINCADE is a member of a local Episcopalian church, and he said that he was here to, quote, stand with his sisters and brothers who are Muslim. Now, Moss actually had a son who died 2 years ago of a heroin overdose, and he said that inspired him to get in line with Trump because he felt like he had the best plan to take care of the drug problems in the United States. Reporting live in St. Louis, Emma Henderson, KOMU 8 News.
Well, the Target 8 team has been sifting through medical records and other documents provided to us by the residents of Elizabeth Street. They tell a disturbing story, one that took more than a year to resolve for one mother and is not yet over for other families. KOMU 8's Emma Henderson spent months on this. She is in the studio with what she found.
I spoke to multiple people who live on Elizabeth Street who feel as though their voices were not being heard by the Jefferson City Public Housing Authority. One woman provided me with documents outlining her son's medical history, showing he was ill due to mold in their apartment.
His oxygen got so low, and one time at my house, I thought my son was going to die on me because he was not breathing well.
The boy had to be hospitalized, she said, because of mold.
They never wanted to deal with the mold issues, and then they were charging me to come and repair the mold, and they were coming in and plastering over the mold instead of fixing it.
This mother, who asked to remain anonymous, is just one of multiple residents on Elizabeth Street worried that her unit is making her family sick. The issues began when her family moved into their unit about 2 years ago. KOMU 8 has documents showing the mother's request for transfer out of her unit. Her request was denied and her son stayed sick. On June 23, 2015, the child went to an allergy and asthma consultant who gave a letter to the Jefferson City Housing Authority that stated, his condition is likely to deteriorate if he remains in an environment with significant dust and mold exposure.
Tenants have an obligation to come and make complaints to us because we don't have any way of knowing. We're not talking to people and neighbors to find out what other neighbors are complaining about. It's your unit, you get to, keep it as you like. If it was life endangering, of course we'd take them out.
The St. Louis Office of Housing and Urban Development oversees the housing authority of the city of Jefferson. On December 23rd, the St. Louis Field Office for Housing and Urban Development came to the Elizabeth Street apartments. They only inspected a small portion of the units. I obtained the inspection report and the City of Jefferson Public Housing Authority's response from its previous director. It showed issues that need to be fixed in the inspected units, from water and lights to rotting floors and other problems. On one property that was complaining of mold in a lower-level bedroom, inspectors discovered that gutter downspouts were draining directly at the foundation. The suggested repair can't happen until the weather warms up.
Despite these findings, the inspection report signed by the director of the Office of Public Housing in St. Louis viewed the maintenance plan for the Elizabeth Streets unit and said the maintenance plan is excellent and should be used as a model for best practice with other housing authorities that are having problems with their maintenance programs, and that the Jefferson City Housing Authority's maintenance program is excellent.
The problems aren't over or in the distant past. For example, resident Angela Whitman believes her apartment was in good condition relative to her neighbors when KOMU first started investigating. But one night, part of her bathroom ceiling fell in on her, sending her to the urgent care. In the last month, I had samples collected in the bathroom of 2 different units. I took these samples as well as a piece of drywall residents kept from the mother's original unit to Jean Mahale, a professor at the University of Missouri who specializes in fungi. All 3 samples tested positive for mold, but residents say when they complained to housing officials, they were told there is no mold in the apartments. I asked the new housing director, who began her job at the beginning of February, whether she was aware of mold in the units.
And I'm not saying there's no mold, but apparently what HUD found was all mildew.
Okay, so HUD found mildew. According to tenants, there is no doubt that mold is the culprit.
I think that these units are not only hazardous, I think everybody is complaining about mold. I think these units need to be torn down and rebuilt. And I don't think that it's safe for any of the tenants to be living in here.
Ketch says it's more complicated than that.
There have been discussions about tearing down the buildings, but then we have the issue of what do we do with those people? I know we have some tenants who are dissatisfied. I believe that we have a large number who are happy to live here and grateful to have the opportunity to have a clean, safe place to live.
Both women in this story are currently in the process of suing the Jefferson City Public Housing Authority for damages. The mother was able to move out of her apartment in November, 2 years after moving into the original apartment, and has noticed some improvement in her son, but it changes day to day. Whitman is still working to get housing issues fixed for herself and her neighbors, and is currently working with Lincoln University to develop programs for children on Elizabeth Street to encourage them to be active members of their community.